One short.
DJ Center, artist, producer, DJ, human being, nice dude, hopefully. Samba, soul, dance floor version of Paradise by Sade. Press Up the Wax, it's on my label, Push the Fatal Records. Circulated all over the world. I mean, people like Gilles Peterson, Nightmares on Wax, Bobbito, Garcia, like all these people got behind it and started playing it at that parties. And I can't tell you how many like dance floors I've seen that thing erupt. And this is At Sometime Somewhere for AT1 Radio. Moment I fell in love with DJing was a surprise birthday party for a classmate of mine in school. And she, her family reached out. She was having a surprise birthday party. I get there. I already love music, but it was the first moment that I actually got to experience a live DJ. And even at that young age, I realized the power and potency of music. To take people on a ride, how a DJ can control moods, emotions, feelings in the room, how music can trigger memories, and not only just memories, but sensory, smells. If you were eating some kind of food and you associate that with a tune, it can bring that back. It can transport you, bring you back to a room that you were in when you took a piece of music in. So I really knew it was like this powerful medium. And I loved it. And I loved what I experienced that day at the party. And it just, what kind of takes it up a notch for me too, is that somehow, and this is one of them big question marks, but they were friends with the Wonder family, as in Stevie Wonder. And Stevie Wonder's son, was DJing that day. So that was my entry point to DJing, and it kind of comes out of the Wonder lineage. So, what a blessing. Yeah, it was a mix. I mean, you're talking about golden era hip hop time, early 90s. So, you heard the run of what was hot at that time. Black Moon, Tribe Called Quest, Redman. I mean, it goes Wu-Tang. But then also soul, funk, jazz, breaks, and having that all kind of woven together. Good times.
It opened something up in you.
It did. I fell in love with it. And that was even at that age, at the age of 13, I knew that was what I wanted to dedicate my life to. And I wanted to make a life in music. At that time, it's mid-90s, so, it was all about then. It started with the record digging and looking for records and putting together a collection, which I'm still working on that so many years later and thousands of records later. And like we were discussing, it really never ends, Soon as the humbling thing about this music journey is as soon as you think you know something, you realize that, nah, it's really endless. It's a bottomless abyss. And that's the joy of it. And the humbling aspect of it too, because, it's a search that will never end. Well, shortly after that, in the mid to late mid-90s, somehow there was a Fela Kuti record at my high school library. And somebody pulled it and was like, oh, I think you might be into this, and just handed it to me. I don't even think he thought twice about it. But it was the Zombie LP. And I remember looking at this cover and didn't know anything about Fela and that first moment of dropping the needle on that album. And then shortly after that was in the mid, approaching the late 90s, and hip hop was getting pretty commercialized at that point. So I needed like an escape out. And then I found Fela's music, and he has like, I don't know, 70 albums or something crazy. And I just did the deep dive because, like I was saying, when I love it, and I go all in. I'm all in. And then pretty much listened to Fela for another 3 years straight, and exclusively Fela, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was another defining moment. And then later, when it was time to produce music of my own, I knew that those Afrobeat roots from my time with Fela's music had to be present. And there was a group called Aoya Afrobeat that was doing their thing in New York City and have members from Japan, members from Brooklyn, and really kind of a unique synergy. And the lead singer, one of the lead singers it's like I call it a super group of musicians, Akoya really is, because everybody's doing their own thing and touring. But one of the lead singers, his name is Kaleta, he's just a legendary artist from Benin, Nigeria, and got his start out with King Sunny Ade, and then moved on to working with Fela and Egypt 80. So next thing I know, we're in the studio crafting my record Demseya, which we were checking out. And yeah, I heard Caleta on it one night, just blocks from where we are here in New York City, and reached out and made that happen. So yeah, it's kind of magical how it all comes together. But it's like it's like chefing. It's like cooking some cuisine. You put in a lot of your inspiration and your roots, that you've come up with into the food, and hope it tastes right after it's all said and done. And thankfully, it has for me. That was a rhythm that I was working on because I got a call from Giant Step. They were looking for a remix for Gregory Porter and 1960 What. So I started that, and I knew I wanted to give it kind of this up tempo, Nina Simone, Sea Line Woman kind of vibe, drum heavy, drum forward, you know, drums are king, right? Your drum, it's all about the drums. So started the rhythm and did some session work with that, and then I submitted the mix, and unfortunately Gregory passed on it. And I felt like, but it was like that moment of like defeat. But then we took lemons and made a lemonade, a banging ass lemonade, and that turned out to be like, I don't know, one of the biggest records that I've ever done, and it circulated all over the world. I mean, people like Gilles Peterson, Nightmares on Wax, Bobbito Garcia, like all these people got behind it and started it at that parties, and I can't tell you how many like dance floors I've seen that thing erupt. And so that was like kind of a blessing, because if I had been a track for somebody else, for Gregory, that would have been a nice thing on the resume. But to be able to make it my own and craft this piece with Akoya, it became something else. Yeah, even as a wee lad, I spent quite a bit of time taking in the music of Sade. I mean, I remember, I think somebody just hit me the other day that Diamond Life just celebrated 40 years, their debut album, this week, like maybe today, something like that. So that, I remember hearing Smooth Operator like the day it dropped, as like, I mean, I'm a child. I don't know how old I was, but I wasn't 10, you know what I mean? And falling in love with the vibe, the voice, of Helen Fuller Sade, everything, just everything that they infuse in their music. Fast forward, so I spent a lot of time with their music growing up. And then fast forward to early 2000s, I'm doing a producer series here in New York City with Giant Step. And I have an idea to bring in a DJ live session, producer together with DJs and vocalists. So I had this concept, and I reached out to Stuart Matthewman, and he was like scoring a film at that point. So it didn't end up coming together, but we were in touch around that. So then I knew I wanted to do a version. It's like, I'm working with Sly Fifth Ave, a good friend of mine and an amazing artist in his own right. Like, we're talking about a little bit about how his musical mind works. And we're sitting down at the table and doing a cover of an artist that you revere so much. It can be a complicated, tricky thing, right? Because it's like, it's serious business that you're doing. You don't, you want to come at it with the utmost respect and love and sincerity. and at the same time you don't want to be a carbon copy, like a not as good version. So you also want to, I want to make it my own. And like, what is that? What is that? I don't even know. So we start playing around in the studio, and I'm really heavily into Brazilian music and samba rock, samba jazz, and just the world of Brazilian music is a big inspiration on me. And we start crafting this, and we start putting together this kind of samba soul dance floor version of Paradise by Sade. And I'm like freaking out because I love the band so much, and you don't know how this thing is going to end up. Is it going to be worth anything? We just do it. And we do it. We do a bunch of music sessions. We make sure we get it right. We take our time with it. And then finally finish it, press up the wax. It's on my label, Push the Fader Records. And we do like a limited run of it, again, not knowing how the world is going to receive it. And the thing is just like smashes open everything. And then one night, shortly after I got copies of the record, I heard that Stuart Matthewman Cotton Belly was doing a DJ set at a dive bar in Williamsburg. And I go to hand him a copy. Like, that was important to me to say, thank you, and here's what I was inspired to do with Sly from what you gifted us, and kind of giving back in a way, and I gave him a copy of the record, and he's like checking it out. And, he's like, at that time, there were like rumors on the internet that Sade was recording a new album. And of course, everybody had heard that. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I think I heard something around that, Stuart. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he's checking the 45 out. And he's like, she has this room that we like to call the shrine. And in the shrine is every single piece of vinyl that we've ever done. Every memorabilia piece of wax is in the shrine. It lives in the shrine. He looks back down at my 45 and he says, I don't know. I have a feeling that this belongs in the shrine. and I'm like, on the inside, I'm like, oh my God, he just told me, did you hear what, but I'm keeping it cool. I'm like, oh yeah, if you need a second copy for the shrine, I got you, And that was it. And I say, give him my respects, have a good night. And as I'm leaving, he takes the sleeve out of the record and he sees kind of the hot pink first press we did on that. And he just kind of shakes his head like, you. And that was it, man. It's like, yeah, can't make these stories up. It's just what blessings. Yeah, and you can play it off. I mean, the painting on that 45 is an actual painting that I worked with this incredible artist named Indy 184, and she did her visual tribute to Sade, and that's what we ended up. So that already is so colorful and vibrant, and we wanted to do something that kind of plays off of that. In the pressing, you can do so many creative things with colors and. These are time capsule pieces at the end of the day that are going to outlive all of us. So yeah, we want to leave something behind, kind of funky. Well, I do think I have this unique story of like being a Romanian immigrant, immigrating to Brooklyn, growing up in hip hop culture. My mentor was a jazz musician named Daniel Carter. Being fortunate enough to do a little traveling with music, going to the West Coast, hooking up with the Root Down sound system, rest his soul, my brother DJ Dusk, him giving me a little taste of through a hip hop context that it's wide open. I mean, you can play reggae music, you can play Latin music. That was the first time I ever heard Latin music in a hip hop party and in that context, and that just totally blew everything up for me, wide open. And I already love music, but then the openness of it and the connection to the drum and the connection to Africa really left a mark on me that ain't going nowhere. I mean, it's just like permanent etching right there. And then for me, when I sit behind the board to produce a tune, drums are always, getting the drums right, getting the rhythm section right is everything, because I value and respect drums so much. Drums are like royal to me. There's no higher thing, in music. Drums are king. So, and I come from a hip hop b-boy aesthetic, so drums got to be banging too. And that's really how my approach starts with that and ends with that. You know what I mean? We're always kind of searching for that feeling, that drum that's gonna like stay inside you and move you and take you to the dance floor and make you lose yourself and then back around, all that. So my name is DJ Center, and before that I was DJ Sire, and I used to write graffiti a little bit for a very short-lived graffiti career. But I wrote Sire, and then when I began DJing and taking it seriously, I carried it over. But it didn't feel right to me because Sire didn't represent where I was in music and what I wanted my expression of music to be. So Center, where that comes from is, the centerpiece in hip-hop is the DJ. But also for me, my favorite music is honest and doesn't hide behind any gimmicks or facades or anything. It just comes from right here, which is your core, which is your center. And that's what I wanted my music to represent into the world. So I think with that same approach that I chose my name, I think when I sit down to express myself in music, whether it be a DJ set or in the studio behind production, is I want it to represent me. And I have a lot of influences, right? And I have a lot of like seasonings and flavors that I bring to what I do. But yeah, I guess showing up as myself, my authentic self.
AT1 Sort.
At Sometimes Somewhere is produced by Audio Technica for AT1 Radio. It is recorded at AT1 Studio at Technica House, New York. Follow AT1 Radio and Audio Technica USA on all social media platforms. Thanks for listening.